morning, and welcome to our Lake Norman congregation. Our fellowship walks diverse paths to find meaning and purpose, but we are united by our belief in the inherent worth and dignity of all, as well as the obligation to express our faith through acts of justice and compassion. My name is Nancy Embry, and I've been an active member of this congregation since 2015. To our visitors, a special welcome. Please stay logged on after the service to chat with our members and Reverend Pat.
Opening words come from Sir Winston Churchill, who said, "Success is not final, failure is not fatal. It is the courage to carry on that counts."
Good call. Thank you. We have lit the flaming chalice to illuminate the world we seek. In our search for truth, may we be just. In our search for justice, may we be loving. And in loving, may we find peace. In our traditional in-person service, we allot time for people to share their joys and sorrows. With this online format, which prioritizes health guidelines, we have shifted joys and concerns to our after-service conversation. Please stay online for the after-service conversation immediately following this service. And for the balance of this service, will you kindly turn down your electronic devices and prepare to enter into a time of worship and contemplation. Autumn Weathers, our spiritual education director, will share her story for all ages with us now.
Hi, everybody. So today I actually have picked a book, and it's called One of a Kind Like Me, and it's inspired by the ministry that the kids and I are doing. We're doing a Harry Potter ministry, and we fight Horcruxes. And so right now, this month, we are actually fighting the hatred Horcrux. And we're learning about how you can fight hatred with love. The book is One of a Kind Like Me, and it's by Lauren Mayeno. "Oh my," said Mommy, "tomorrow is a school parade, and you still don't have a costume." Danny drew wavy lines with his purple marker. "I know what I'm going to be," he said. Cousin Cornelia watched him, licking gooey banana from her fingers. Said Grandpa, "a wizard in a long purple robe?" Danny colored between the lines. "Nope." "I know," said Mommy, "a flying acrobat with purple tights?" Danny drew faster, and the purple waves danced to life. "Nope." "Well, don't keep us guessing," said Grandpa. Danny smiled. He picked up his silver pencil and added one last touch. "I'm going to be a princess like her." Everyone stopped what they were doing and looked at Danny's princess. Her purple dress had puffy sleeves, ruffles all the way down to her toes, and her crown was shiny silver. "Oh, Princesa," cooed Carmelita. "Are you sure that's what you want?" asked Mommy. "Yes, I'm sure." "Okay, let's go find your princess dress." Carmelita clapped her sticky hands. Grandpa winked. "Try Nifty Thrifty. They have everything." Danny folded his picture and went away. When they walked into the store, their eyes popped wide open. "This place looks like a giant closet exploded," said Danny. Mommy stood and stared. "How will we find anything in all of this?" Danny took her hand. "We'll look for purple. I know we'll find it." In the very first aisle, Danny spotted a bin with hats, masks, and animal ears. He uncovered a sparkly silver crown. It fit him just right. "Yippee," he said. In aisle 2, Danny looked from side to side, up and down, but there was no purple princess dress. In aisle 3, a twinkle of purple shone from behind the belts. Out slithered a shiny purple necktie. "I know we'll find my dress soon," said Danny. They searched 2 more aisles, and still there was no purple princess dress. Where could it be? In aisle 6, a flash of purple peeked out from the swirl of colors on the rack overhead. Could this be his dress? Danny reached up and pulled. Clothes fell raining all around him. A purple robe landed on his head. A wizard would wear this, said Danny, but not a princess. In aisle 7, Danny saw a big purple blob bulging from a shelf. Could this be his dress? Standing on his tippy toes, Danny stretched as far as he could, but the blob was just out of reach. He jumped as high as he could and barely hooked it with his fingertips. The purple thing fell, opening up in a sea of ruffles. Danny's mouth dropped open, but it wasn't a princess dress. What is it? He asked. It must be a shower curtain, said Mommy. Danny stared at the ruffles. His shoulders dropped. I was sure this was my dress, he said. Mommy stuffed the curtain back onto the shelf. Let's keep looking. They got to the last aisle and still hadn't found Danny's dress. A speck of purple glimmered from the bottom of a huge mountain of odds and ends. Could this be his dress? Danny gave a tug and something purple and shimmery appeared. He yanked some more and out it came. But it's leggings, said Danny. I'm sorry, mijo. There's nowhere else to look. Danny clenched his fist. But my dress is here. I just know it. A crackling sound came from above, and then a tiny voice said, the store is closing in 5 minutes. Please bring your purchases to the register. Danny's chin dropped down to his chest. Oh, well, I guess I'll be a flying acrobat. He left the crown on a nearby table and trudged toward the checkout counter with the leggings. Mommy handed the leggings to the cashier. Danny sighed. He pulled out his picture and looked at his princess. The purple ruffles reminded him of something. What was it? Wait, he said, my dress is here. Danny stuffed the picture book back in his pocket and raced over to aisle 7. He leapt for the shower curtain and caught it as it fell. Look, here's the bottom half, he said, wrapping it around his waist. Mommy caught up to him. Why didn't I think of that? Will you help me make it? Asked Danny. Of course I will. Mommy trailed behind Danny as he ran to go and get his crown. They hurried to aisle 6 and Danny nabbed the purple robe. We can use this for the top half, he said. Brilliant, said Mommy. They rushed aisle 3 and grabbed the purple necktie, and then they made their way back to the counter for checkout. When Danny and his mommy got home, they got right to work, cutting and sewing. Your dress will be one of a kind, said Mommy. Just like me, said Danny. Just like you. At school the next morning, Danny couldn't keep his eyes off the clock. Every time he looked, the hands had barely moved, and finally, Miss Kaloka stood up, time to get ready for the parade. Danny jumped out of his seat and danced over to his cubby. He grabbed his backpack and pulled out his big, fluffy, purple princess dress. Whose dress is that? Said Miss Kaloka. It's mine, said Danny. Mommy helped me make it. Wow, that's fantastic, she said. She helped Danny wriggle into the dress and tied the purple necktie into a bow around his waist. Danny pulled out his shiny silver crown and stood up tall while Miss Kaloka placed it on his head. Now I'm a princess, he said. Yes, you are, said Miss Kaloka, adjusting his crown so it sat just right. Thank you, said Danny, with a smile that stretched clear across his face. Danny skipped out to his friends nearby and skipped right into a giant octopus. Hello, Danny, said the octopus, blowing a stream of bubbles. Hi, Christina, said Danny. Natasha landed nearby, spreading her butterfly wings. Carlos waddled over, dressed as a big round pineapple. I've never seen a boy princess before, said the pineapple. Me neither, said the butterfly. Danny crossed his arms, making his sleeves puff out even more. Well, I've never seen a walking pineapple or a talking butterfly. Carlos tried to cross his arms, but his big round pineapple suit got in the way. He just frowned. The octopus blew some bubbles, the butterfly flapped her wings, and the princess curtsied. I guess we're all one of a kind, said Danny. The pineapple frown turned into a smile. That's us, one of a kind. And Danny twirled, watching the purple ruffles dance around him.
Thank you, Autumn. All of us, regardless of our age, are inspired by your story. And as a warm-up to Reverend Pat's message, we have a quote from Gandhi. Confession of errors is like a broom which sweeps away the dirt and leaves the surface brighter and clearer. I feel stronger for the confession.
Thank you,
And now
Nancy.
we welcome our minister, Reverend Pat Jobe, to
Thanks,
share his
Nancy.
reflection on the day Gandhi and Orville Wright died, which was January 30th, 1948.
Thanks to Nancy and Autumn. One of a kind, just like me. We live in a world deeply touched and changed by Mohandas Gandhi and Orville Wright. Both men lived with deep regrets that the unintended consequences of their efforts wrought great destruction. But there is no question that each man did immeasurable good, and each did so in spirits and inspirations not unlike those that have empowered Unitarian Universalists throughout history. And as strange as it may feel to us, both men died 74 years ago today, January 30th, 1948. Gandhi from an assassin's bullet, Wilbur Wright after a series of heart attacks. Wright, along with his brother Wilbur, invented the heavier-than-air motorized airplane, and during his lifetime saw such vehicles cross all oceans, reach remote parts of the world, move millions through commercial flight, and even saw jets cross the skies at almost unimaginable speeds. The rickety baling wire and bubblegum contraption that now hangs in the Smithsonian only flew one time, December 17th, 1903. But the models that followed, using principles pioneered by the Wright brothers, were soon flying consistently, impressively, and changed the world as profoundly as anything imaginable. Here is what Noah Adams concluded at the end of his book called The Flyers. Perhaps we have lost the ability to comprehend how that once seemed impossible. But we have the example of two brothers to assure us that someday, even in a century to come, such a thing might happen again. Okay, preacher, what does that have to do with the UU Fellowship at Lake Norman? Besides the obvious fact that today is the anniversary of his death, why should we think about Orville Wright and his and his brother's extraordinary accomplishments? Listen again to part of that Noah Adams quote. Perhaps we have lost the ability to comprehend how that once seemed impossible. Let that dangle in your minds for just a second. Perhaps we have lost the ability to comprehend how that once seemed impossible. The Wright brothers could not have imagined massive airports taking up tens of thousands of acres of land, some of them with their own rail systems to move passengers from one terminal to another. Through years of practice and research and failure and finally triumph, they put together an airplane with a motor that would fly. But they lived in a world where such a thing had never happened before. Along with Robert Fulton's steamship, Alexander Graham Bell's telephone, and Thomas Edison's light bulb, something came into being which moments before had not existed. Many of you will remember the joke that if it hadn't been for Thomas Edison, we'd all be watching television by candlelight. Perhaps we have lost the ability to comprehend how that once seemed impossible. But within the context of all this extraordinary change, Noah Adams asks us to consider that change might again jump the impossible and land us in what could be, perhaps maybe, just maybe, a better world. And as Orville Wright's heart was giving out, half a world away, a pistol-wielding Hindu fundamentalist shot the life force out of Gandhi. Gandhi was hated by the Hindu fundamentalists because he wanted peace with the Muslims. As important as was India's independence from Great Britain, the gross and horrible partitioning of India into East and West Pakistan was a great disaster. It displaced 15 million people and left 2 million dead. Long before a bullet took his life, the great Mahatma, the great teacher, had a broken heart over the disaster of partitioning. What a crime. What a shame. Gandhi opposed partitioning, begged the Muslim leaders not to insist on it, but lost that battle, and ultimately 2 million people lost their lives. When I was in India in 1984, I asked a Muslim woman what she thought of Gandhi. She said his followers had boarded a train and killed many members of her family. Of course, no mass murderer would be a follower of Gandhi, but she believed it was so, and her bitterness and hatred was at a level I hope never to witness again. Because he was identified as Hindu, this woman hated him for the mass killings that were committed by Hindus. But partitioning was the great failure and regret of his career, just as the invention of warplanes was something that horrified Orville Wright. But let's back up from Gandhi's sadness and grief of 1947 and 48 and think for a moment about his amazing success at moving the British out of India. It took a long, long time. He spent roughly 5 years in prison after being arrested 13 times, both in South Africa for working for freedom for what was called the colored people, and then his efforts at Indian independence. He mobilized millions in mass general strikes and the famous Salt March to the Sea. Not unlike Orville Wright, he was able to imagine massive, highly improbable change in a racist colonial mindset that basically dehumanized people of color and operated out of an assumed superiority. After all, the colonists assumed it was white people, particularly English white people, who had written the great literature, run the great schools, churches, and hospitals, and paddled down from the headwaters of civilization. Knowing how the residue of racism still touches our daily lives, is it any wonder that Gandhi struggled against what felt like overwhelming odds when he first went to jail in 1908 and when he went to jail again 36 years later as he was locked up for advocating Indian independence? But I don't mention either of these two giants this morning to the UU Fellowship of Lake Norman in the hopes that we will invent something extraordinary as the airplane or free oppressed people in places like Bangladesh or Lake Norman. I do want to pause here for just a second and acknowledge that 1 million Rohingya are in refugee camps in Bangladesh right now. These camps are plagued by fires and other adverse living conditions that make their plight right here, right now, a tragedy and a scandal on the international community. I do mention Gandhi and Orville Wright in the hope that as a congregation, we will think and dream creatively of how we may be of service and inspiration in our lives and the life of this hallowed group. Sure, we're good at self-effacement, and we can throw up our hands at the idea of making a difference. But we also gather to enjoy movies and books together. We feed at the feed-in soup kitchen in Mooresville. We build dog fences, send postcards in hopes of inspiring voters. We encourage the purchase of free trade chocolate and coffee and provide support and encouragement to each other. We may sometimes laugh at the idea that we can make much of a difference, but then we turn around and make a difference. Gandhi and Orville Wright had particularly singular contributions to make that shook the foundations of consensual reality. What almost everyone agreed was impossible became eventually inevitable. For the Wright brothers, it took years. For Gandhi, it took decades. But change came. It can come again. Change came. It can come again. Gandhi described the process that leads to change. He said, first they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fight you, then you win. For a man who spent most of his adult life being beaten, jailed, ignored, laughed at, and fought, that quote must sound like a terrible oversimplification. But it goes to the core of what we believe is possible. Gather one more time. See each other and affirm each other's presence and the juice we get from each other one more time. This is good. This works. This is who we are. In an age when so many traditional religions are literally eating their seed corn, it might just turn out that there are more of us than there are of them. We stand ready to find each other. In the meantime, we go to the movies together, read books together, build dog fences, feed at the soup kitchen, and send postcards in hopes of energizing one more voter. How does this compare to inventing the airplane or taking India back from the British? Well, the comparisons are pretty simple. At one moment in 1903, there was no motorized flight. And then a moment later, there was. At one moment in 1947, the British flag flew over outposts throughout India. And then a moment later, those flags came down, and the Indian flag, featuring the spinning wheel of Gandhi, were raised over all those outposts. As Jolson once joked, I'm an overnight sensation that was 20 years in the making. The tiniest shift in a snowbank can create an avalanche. Sometimes it is one more flake of snow that brings down a mighty tree. At the root of all great successes is the determination to keep on keeping on. So that's our assignment. Keep on keeping on. And trust that when we no longer keep on keeping on, we have engaged and encouraged and inspired those who will come behind us. Orville Wright left a world full of inventors and engineers and dreamers who filled the sky with vehicles and have now moved out to outer space. Gandhi left behind Martin Luther King, Oscar Romero, Marshall Rosenberg, Mickey Leland, Gloria Steinem, Bella Abzug, Barbara Jordan, Daniel Berrigan, Thich Nhat Hanh, and the nonviolent revolutionaries who brought down the Berlin Wall and ended Soviet domination in Eastern Europe. He also left behind Corazon Aquino, the first female president of the Philippines, whose nonviolent supporters stood between her and the tanks and the guns of a failed military takeover of her country. Gandhi's legacy profoundly touched the 20th and 21st centuries, to the point that may yet see flowers stuffed into the gun barrels of all military dictators all over the world. We can dream. We can dream. Orville Wright said this about his and his brother's invention of the airplane. We dared to hope we had invented something that would bring lasting peace to the earth, but we were wrong. No, I don't have any regrets about my part in the invention of the airplane, though no one could deplore more than I do the destruction it has caused. I feel about the airplane much the same way as I do in regard to fire. That is, I regret all the terrible damage caused by fire. But I think it is good for the human race that someone discovered how to start a fire, and they have learned how to put fire to thousands of important uses. So our assignment from all this is to keep on keeping on. So far, so good. Many of our good deeds listed above are augmented by our inspiring spiritual educator, Autumn Weathers. Maybe we are raising up the next generation of inventors and nonviolent change creators who will help take us to the next best steps home.
Now I've been happy lately, thinking about good things to come. And I believe it could be something good has begun.
Oh, I've been smiling lately, dreaming about the world just one. And I believe it could be someday it's gonna come.
'Cause I'm on the edge of darkness, there rides the peace train. Oh, peace train, take this country, come take me home again.
Now I've been smiling lately, thinking about the good things to come. And I believe it could be something good has begun.
Peace train sounding louder, ride on the peace train. Ooh-ah-ee-ah, ooh-ah. Peace train, holy roller, everyone jump upon the peace train.
Rendin chomtima arkidam banda seila de mangaron unade kadi fani ma joni eto manjola ar abbo dam 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 durnam dam wadadi ma unade fani ma joni joni unto kongo.
Peace train sounding loud, glide on the peace train.
Oh, I've been crying lately, thinking about the world as it is. Why must we go on hating? Why can't we live in bliss? Peace train sounding louder, glide on the peace train. Come on, peace train. Peace train, holy roller, everyone jump upon the peace train. Come on, come on, come on.
Come on and ride on the peace train.
Come on, come on, come on. Let's come on, peace train.
Come on, come on, come on. Peace train.
Come on, join me. I'm jumping on the peace train.
Come on, peace train.
Peace train.
Thank you, Reverend Pat, and thank you, Mike, for providing this beautiful tape of the peace train. Both of you inspire us to lead lives of integrity, compassion, and peace. Although we're meeting virtually for the time being, we're still honoring our financial pledges, which not only sustain and grow our congregation, they affirm our commitment to our church community. Thank you for honoring these commitments. And now for some interesting and fun announcements. Our movie fans go to a movie on a regular basis in the early afternoon in either Birkdale or Davidson. Then they go to a restaurant for a snack to socialize and discuss the movie. If you'd like to join these enthusiastic folk, please contact Linda at tuscanylinda13@gmail.com. And our UU book group is reading Justice, What's the Right Thing to Do by Michael Sandel. The book was written to accompany the author's popular course on justice that he has taught for many years at Harvard. The book club will discuss this book at 7 p.m. January 31st, tomorrow night, via Zoom. Everyone is welcome to join the conversation, whether you have read the book or not. Let Sandy know if you need the Zoom link or have any other questions. Sandy's email is vp@uuLakeNorman.org. And the Heart of the Carolinas UU Animal Ministry is happy to announce that they had a dog fence build yesterday in Iron Station, North Carolina. Now Bear and Doggo can enjoy life without being chained. Thank you to all the volunteers who made this happen. Another volunteer effort is our participation every month at Feed and See. Thursday, February 12th is the next day to help at Feed and See. The kitchen is from 9 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. 5 volunteers are needed. Please contact Jim Arnold at jarnoldmd@icloud.com if you'd like to volunteer. All of these announcements are in our newsletter, which is so competently created every week by Regina. Thank you, Regina, for keeping us on track. And now Reverend Pat will say our closing words.
Our closing words come from Admiral David Farragut, and I promise not to use them too much, but during the recent unpleasantness, he sailed the United States Navy into Mobile Bay. And when he was told that the bay had been mined with torpedoes, he said, "Damn the torpedoes and full speed ahead."
We extinguish this chalice, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we hold in our hearts until we are together again. And a final word from Gandhi. Confession of errors is like a broom which sweeps away the dirt and leaves the surface brighter and clearer. I feel stronger for the confession. And now, please stay logged on. We have a social time to chat with Reverend Pat and each other.